Ah, fools. They always swore they had you figured out. The harmless one, the safe one. The one who would nod, smile, and never step beyond the lines they drew. Oh, they were so confident in their little assessment, like a hunter convinced their prey will never bite back. But then you moved, not a stumble, not a twitch. A calculated, deliberate move that split their comfort wide open. Now they're staring at the board like it's been rearranged by a ghost. Their pulse, irregular. Their breath, short. Their thoughts, spiraling. Because you didn't just make a move. They can't even tell how many more you have lined up. I call you the quiet disruptor, the one who doesn't need noise to bring the whole room to its knees. And you, my friend, have just weaponized their own imagination against them. Because fear isn't in what you do. Fear is in what they think you might do next. And right now, their minds are sprinting in circles, painting 1,000 versions of your next step. None of them ending well for them. Look at them now. The ones who used to interrupt you mid-sentence suddenly hang on your pauses like they're decoding scripture. The ones who once smirked at you are avoiding eye contact, pretending they're too busy to notice you've entered the room. They'll call it coincidence. They'll tell themselves they're just preoccupied. But deep down, they know their nervous system doesn't lie. The beauty of your move is that it didn't need an audience. You didn't make an announcement. You didn't throw a parade. You just acted. Precision over spectacle. And that's exactly why it's eating them alive. If you had been loud about it, they could have labeled it desperate or dramatic and moved on. But subtle is untraceable. Subtle makes them wonder how long you've been playing at this level without them noticing. And here's where the psychological warfare begins. People can rationalize almost anything when they believe they're in control. But take that control away, even in the smallest way, and you trigger something primal. You've tilted the ground under their feet, and they're not sure if it's a tremor or the start of a complete collapse. They'll try to downplay it, pretend your move was nothing more than luck or timing. They'll tell themselves you just got one good day. But that's the lie they'll choke on, because deep down, they know this wasn't luck. It was design. You've just introduced a new variable to their world. You're not who they thought you were, and the human mind hates that. They had you in a box, labeled and sealed, and now the box is gone. They don't know where to place you. Are you an ally, a threat, a wild card? The uncertainty is a toxin, and it's already spreading through their thoughts. But here's the thing, this is not about revenge. Revenge is reactive. This is about evolution. You didn't make a move to prove them wrong. You made it because you've outgrown their understanding of you. You stopped asking for a seat at their table and built your own. Now they're wondering if they'll need to knock on your door one day. And if they do, will you even answer? What you've done is dismantled the script. Everyone has a role they expect you to play, and for years, you played it just enough to keep the peace. But peace, in their world, was nothing more than your compliance. You've just shown them you're no longer reading from their pages. You've started writing your own, and that terrifies them. Think about it. How many times did they underestimate you because they thought they understood your limits? How many times did they bet you wouldn't take a step that might make them uncomfortable? They've been banking on you playing safe forever, but you've just exposed the flaw in their gamble. You were never the safe bet. They were. Now you've flipped it. You've made them the one standing in the open, wondering where the shot will come from. That shift is lethal, not because you're out to destroy them, but because the possibility is now alive in their minds. And possibilities are harder to kill than people. You've also given them a taste of something they can't digest: uncertainty about their own superiority. People like that thrive on the illusion that they're above you, ahead of you, untouchable. But your move, your single, unapologetic move, was proof that their castle isn't as fortified as they believed. You didn't even have to knock down the whole structure. You just showed them the cracks in the foundation. Now every sound, every shadow, every whisper of your name will make them wonder if this is the moment it all comes down. And here's my favorite part. You're not chasing them. You're not explaining yourself. You're not trying to convince them of your value. You're just existing in this new space you carved for yourself. That drives them mad, because in their minds, they were the axis around which you revolved. But now they're discovering you have your own orbit, and they're not in control of its path. You don't need to attack to make an impact. All you have to do is keep moving in ways they can't predict. Let them sit with the discomfort. Let them wonder if they should prepare for the next blow or pretend nothing happened. Both choices are exhausting, and exhaustion leads to mistakes. Mistakes you can use. They're not scared because you hurt them. They're scared because you've proven you can. And worse, you might again whenever you choose. There's no expiry date on that fear. It lingers, it festers, it mutates. And with each passing day that you don't explain yourself, the myth of your capability grows in their heads. You've become a story they tell themselves in the dark, a story where they can't control the ending. Now, here's where the real game begins. Because once you've unsettled someone, once you've planted the seed of doubt in their mind about their control over you, every interaction that follows is tinted with that fear. They'll measure their words, not because you told them to, but because they no longer know what the wrong word might trigger. They'll treat you differently, not out of respect, but out of self-preservation. And they'll think they're hiding it well, but you'll see it. In their hesitations, in their overcorrections, in the way they'll test you with little comments, just to see if you'll react the way you used to. Spoiler, you won't. And that's the difference between who you were and who you are now. You're not here to react. You're here to dictate. Every pause you take, every glance you give, every choice you make now carries weight. They don't know how much weight. That's the point. The less they know, the more they fear. They've entered a new reality now, one they didn't sign up for. The rules are no longer theirs to write. The pace is no longer theirs to set. They're in your world now, whether they like it or not. And in your world, fear is currency. And you've just made yourself the richest person in the room. And the best part? You've only just started moving. See, when people are scared, they react in two ways. They either freeze or they flail. Freezing is dangerous for them because it means they're an easy target. Flailing? That's even worse, because in their panic to do something, they end up doing exactly what you want them to. And right now, they're flailing hard. They're trying to rewrite conversations you haven't even had yet, preparing defenses against attacks you haven't even planned, overcompensating in ways that betray exactly where they think they're vulnerable. You've turned them into their own enemy. That's the beauty of psychological warfare. It's not about hitting them over the head. It's about planting an echo inside their skull and letting it drive them mad. You're living rent-free in their mind, pacing the halls, rearranging the furniture, tapping on the walls just enough for them to wonder if they imagined it. And the more they try to ignore you, the louder the echo gets. They don't realize it yet, but they're in training now. You're conditioning them without saying a word. Every time they hesitate before speaking, every time they glance at you to gauge your reaction, before finishing a sentence, you're tightening the leash. They'll call it being careful, but careful is just another word for controlled. And here's the cruel part. They'll try to convince themselves they're still in control. They'll smile wider, speak with fake confidence, throw in meaningless little digs at you just to see if they can still push your buttons. But you've made a move that rewrote the rules, and those buttons, they don't work anymore. You've unplugged the whole panel. Now they're pressing air, looking foolish, and every failed attempt makes them more desperate. That's the phase they're entering now. Desperation masked as strategy. They'll study you in ways they never did before, watching how you sit, how you walk, how you respond to the smallest comments. They'll start noticing things they were too arrogant to notice before. The way your eyes linger on certain people, the pauses you take before speaking, the tone you use when you're about to make a point. And every observation will fuel a private theory about what you're planning next. Spoiler for them, they're wrong. Because you're not just moving pieces on a board anymore. You're rewriting the board itself. While they obsess over where you're standing, you're already planning to burn the map. And the more they try to pin you down, the more impossible you become to predict. You've gone from a known variable to a shifting shadow, from a static character to an expanding force. And people don't know how to handle what they can't define. They'll start talking about you when you're not around, more than they ever have. Some will do it out of fear, some out of fascination. But either way, you've become the center of a conversation you didn't even ask for. You're no longer a participant in their game. You've become the game. And here's the trick. You don't play to win anymore. You play to change the rules mid-match. The ripple effect out is already showing. They're changing how they interact with others, adjusting their alliances, reconsidering their next moves, all because of what you did. Think about that. You made one decisive move, and it's now shaping decisions in rooms you're not even in. That's not influence. That's dominance. And yet, you're not rushing. That's what really eats them alive. You're not sprinting to follow up your move with something bigger. You're letting them stew, letting them sit in the discomfort you created. They're waiting for a next blow, but you're too smart to give them one on their schedule. You move when you want, not when they expect. And that slow burn, that's what breaks them. You've shifted from being the one reacting to being the one orchestrating. And an orchestrator doesn't need to be loud. They just need the right timing. One pause at the right moment can feel like a knife against the throat. One calculated glance can make them question their safety. One unexpected appearance can dismantle their sense of normal. And they're already showing cracks. You can see it in the way they talk faster when you're around, as if filling the air will keep you from cutting through their words. You can see it in the way their body language tilts away from you, like some part of them knows proximity to you comes with risk. They'll deny it, of course. People always deny fear when they think denial equals strength. But fear is written in the muscles, not in the mouth. Now here's the cruel irony. They're going to try to expose you. They'll dig for flaws, try to find some evidence that your move was just luck, that you're still the same predictable version of yourself they once knew. They'll gossip, they'll speculate, they'll even try to bait you into proving yourself again. That's the trap they'll set. And the smartest thing you'll do? You won't step into it. You'll let them waste their energy. You'll let them work themselves into exhaustion trying to figure you out, while you stay unreadable. Unreadable is a superpower. They'll start to hate that you don't respond the way they want. Hate that you don't give them the satisfaction of clarity. And that hate? It's just fear wearing a louder mask. People don't actually hate what they understand. They hate what makes them feel powerless. And you've just become the embodiment of that feeling for them. Soon, it won't just be about what you've already done. It'll be about what they think you're capable of. You'll see it in their hesitations, in the sudden awkward silences in meetings, in the way conversations shift the moment you enter the frame. And while they're busy imagining the worst-case scenario, you'll be living your best-case reality. Because you've turned their fear into your leverage. This is the moment where you stop playing on defense entirely. This is where you stop thinking in terms of what they might do and start asking yourself, what do I want to make them do without even touching them? You can pull strings they don't even see yet. Arrange situations where their paranoia makes them overstep, where their insecurity makes them reveal more than they intended. Every reaction they give you now is a breadcrumb, and you're collecting them all. You don't need to rush. Power compounds in silence. Every day that you don't make a big move is another day they waste energy trying to predict it. And by the time you finally do, they'll already be too tired, too distracted, too fractured to handle it. You've done something they'll never forgive you for. You've made them realize that you're not the same person they could manipulate, predict, or dismiss. You've cut the strings they thought they had tied around you. And the thing about people like that, they don't just lose control gracefully. No, they unravel loudly, publicly, tragically. And you'll be standing there watching, knowing you didn't even have to touch them for it to happen. This is the cost of underestimating you. This is the tax on their arrogance, and you're the collector. The next phase is simple. You keep moving, but never in straight lines. You let them get used to thinking they've caught on, then you pull the ground from under them again. You stay 2 moves ahead, not by speed, but by depth. They'll be thinking in terms of moves. You'll be thinking in terms of patterns. They'll be reacting. You'll be designing. And when the time comes for your next move, it won't feel like an attack. It'll feel like inevitability, like the thing they should have seen coming but couldn't stop. And when that moment hits, they won't just be scared, shitless. They'll be broken. Because fear can keep someone on edge. But inevitability, that crushes them. For now, you let them breathe just enough to think they've regained footing. You let them talk themselves into believing the worst is over. And when they finally start to relax, when they finally dare to think they've adjusted to the new you, that's when you remind them you've only just started moving. And the reminder doesn't arrive like a threat hurled across the table. No raised voices, no dramatic declarations. It's subtler, more surgical. A move made almost carelessly, but with devastating precision. You might take an opportunity they didn't even know existed. You might connect with someone they thought belonged firmly in their camp. Or maybe you simply execute something so flawlessly that it forces them to reevaluate every assumption they've made about you. This is where the real game begins. Because the human mind fears what it can't predict. And right now, They can't predict you at all. Every time they think they've spotted your pattern, you alter it. Every time they believe they've mapped your limits, you expand them. And with each shift, the fear doesn't just return. It compounds. They start seeing shadows in places you haven't even stepped into yet. They'll second-guess conversations you've had, emails you've sent, even silences you've maintained. They'll wonder if you're positioning yourself for something bigger, something they can't stop. And the beauty of it, half the time, you aren't even thinking about them. But they won't believe that. They'll connect dots that don't exist. And in doing so, they'll create a story far scarier than reality. You'll notice how the paranoia leaks into their behavior. Suddenly, they're overly agreeable in public, overly cautious in private. They might try to insert themselves into your projects, hoping to keep tabs. Or they'll attempt subtle digs, trying to see if they can still provoke you. But you won't bite. Because the moment you react emotionally, they'll think they've found a foothold. And footholds are dangerous. You're not in the business of giving them one. Instead, you operate with the patience of someone who already knows how this ends. You let them spin in their own uncertainty. You let them make small, desperate moves, thinking they're reclaiming ground, when in reality, they're only exposing more of themselves. You're studying every hesitation, every slip of the tongue, every misplaced word. And the more they scramble, the clearer the picture becomes. Here's the thing they don't understand yet. You're not just playing offense. You're rewriting the entire rulebook of interaction. Before, they were the pace setters. They decided when the tension rose and when it eased. Now they're stuck reacting to you. And reacting is exhausting. They can't plan their next move without worrying how you'll counter. That mental drain eats away at them faster than any direct attack could. But the real damage comes when they start rewriting history in their own minds. They'll look back on the times they underestimated you and convince themselves the signs were always there. They'll remember moments when you were quiet and mistake them for strategy. They'll begin to think that you were always capable of this, just waiting for the perfect moment. And that thought alone will keep them awake at night. Because if you were capable then, what else are you capable of now? Your presence has changed. Even when you're not in the room, there's an awareness of you. People measure their words differently when they know they might reach your ears. They calculate their actions based on how you might perceive them. That's not respect. It's survival instinct. And survival instinct is raw, unfiltered fear dressed up as caution, and still, they try to pretend otherwise. They'll hide it under forced humor, exaggerated indifference, or even fake kindness. But fear is never perfectly concealed. It shows up in the tiny pauses between words, in the micro-expressions they don't know they're making, in the sudden shift of tone when you speak. And once you've learned to read those signs, it's like having their thoughts printed on a page in front of you. What truly unsettles them is that you're not stopping. This isn't a single isolated act of boldness. It's a shift in the way you operate. They thought they could adapt to the new you. But now they're realizing that there's no static version to adapt to. You're evolving in real time, faster than they can track, sharper than they can counter. And the pace, that's the killer. They're barely recovering from one move before you make another. Even your smallest actions carry weight now because they happen in the context of everything you've already done. A choice you make today echoes through the memory of your previous wins, magnifying its impact. they're not just reacting to this move, they're reacting to all the moves you might make next. They'll start looking for allies, quiet conversations in corners, subtle outreach to people who might understand their concerns. But the problem is, fear isn't contagious in the way they hope. It's corrosive. The more they speak about you, the more they validate your power to others. The more they warn people about you, the more they position you as someone worth watching. And that is the last thing they should want. Your detachment is their worst nightmare. If you were obsessed with beating them, they could prepare for that. If you were consumed by revenge, they could strategize around it. But you're not. You're simply moving forward, building, expanding. They're just incidental obstacles, and deep down, they know it. That's what makes it unbearable. Realizing they're not even the main focus of the story that's destroying their comfort. They can't handle it because it breaks the most fragile illusion of all, that they were important enough to control you. The truth is, they were just background noise until you decided otherwise. And now, they're background noise again, except this time, they're painfully aware of it. This is where you solidify the new reality. You keep your moves clean, your wins public enough to be undeniable but private enough to leave them guessing how you pulled them off. You let them hear about your successes through whispers and third-hand accounts. You allow the mystery to do the heavy lifting, because mystery is a slow poison. It doesn't hit all at once. It seeps in, making them question not just what they know about you, but what they know about themselves. And when you do cross paths, you keep your composure, no triumph in your tone, no aggression in your posture, just the calm of someone who doesn't need to prove anything. You know the scoreboard. They know the scoreboard. There's nothing left to discuss. Over time, they'll stop making direct moves against you. Not because they've surrendered, but because they've realized it's not worth the risk. Every interaction now feels like an audition they could fail. Every attempt to undermine you could backfire spectacularly. You've changed the risk-reward ratio so drastically that doing nothing becomes their safest option. But here's the twist. They'll never feel safe again. Because safety isn't about the absence of danger. It's about the absence of perceived danger. And you've made sure that perception will never go away. Every time they hear your name, see your face, or even think about you, their body will run the same fear program. Heart rate up, mind racing, stomach tight. That's conditioning. And once it's set, it doesn't just vanish. You've built something far more valuable than a single victory. You've built a permanent psychological presence. They're not scared of what you did. They're scared of what you could do. The possibilities are infinite, and that's the point. Because infinite possibilities mean infinite reasons for them to tread lightly. And as you move forward, faster, sharper, freer, they'll fall further behind. Their attempts to keep up will grow more desperate, more transparent, more laughable, and the world will see it. That's when the balance of power becomes public knowledge. That's when even those who doubted you start to align with you, not out of loyalty, but out of instinct. People move toward strength, and right now, you're the strongest presence in the room. So the next time you see them, and you will, you won't need to say a word. The air will shift. They'll feel it before you speak. And in that moment, they'll remember every move you made, every step you took, every quiet reminder that they were never as untouchable as they believed. And you'll simply keep walking, because for you, this was never about them. This was about reclaiming your place, rewriting your role, and reminding the world that when you move, everything changes. And as they watch you fade into the distance, the same thought will echo in their minds over and over, like a warning they can't erase. If that was just the beginning, what happens when they really decide to move?